and that's what the song say. And I can do all things, and I can do all things, and I can do all.
Hey, Love Your Life family, welcome back to another discussion about loving your life. It's your sis Crystal.
Hey, what's going on, fam? It's your brother Andre. We're excited to be back with you today.
Yes, indeed, with another discussion about loving your life. What's been going on, boo?
Girl, nothing much. Well, actually, that's an understatement. A lot's been going on.
Yeah.
Trying to be productive. Obviously, doing a lot of projects here around the house. Taking the kids back and forth to their locations as far as sports, gymnastics, you name it.
Yeah.
What about you?
Kind of a blur. It's like you said, it's been on and popping. It's that time of year, kind of wrapping the school year up, the kids preparing for finals, getting through the holidays, and just preparing for everything, trying to stay healthy. But all in all, we're making progress and continue to move forward.
For sure, babe. So, listen, hey, I want to talk to you. I know we've been kind of back and forth about like a variety of topics, seasons and so forth. And you brought up a very good point. We were having a discussion about kind of being proactive and reactive and the difference and so forth. So today I think it'd be good if we talk about being proactive versus reactive.
Yeah, for sure. And before we hop into this discussion, I want to put out there that this discussion is for educational purposes only. Yeah. If there's anything that is discussed on here today that you feel like you need some additional work with, make sure to contact your necessary healthcare professionals that will help you on your journey.
Cool. So being proactive versus reactive, or proactive versus reactive behavior. So we want to kind of jump into the dynamics of that, kind of look at pros and cons, and just really articulate, the difference and really stress, what would be the better way to attack life. So what comes to mind when you think about being proactive, man?
Proactive to me in general is just getting ahead of a situation, foresight, taking the necessary steps to prevent as much as possible from becoming chaotic in your life. Okay. Like when you see something that could become a problem, hit the nail on the head, address it then versus waiting for it to sour or to get bad. To now it's reactive and emotions, unregulated emotions are involved. Right. And you're trying to manage something that could have been prevented. Right.
Because when we look at being proactive, I mean, the very definition of proactive means creating or controlling a situation by causing something to happen. Mm-hmm. And so being proactive, whether it's you're preparing, that preparing could look like a lot of different ways. One of the ways we prepare in financially being proactive is savings. It could be investments versus, I want things in life, but I have no plan to accomplish those things. Right. So being proactive is you put your hands at the plow. You're doing something to cause something else to happen. Versus reactive is the exact opposite. Versus you're looking to control or be prepared or plan. Reactive, you just sit back and whatever happens, you're always on the defensive, meaning you always respond. And I think a big key in life and being successful, whatever sphere the person is making sure that they're operating out of a proactive type of lifestyle and behavior, meaning they're planning, they're organizing, they're looking at foresight, they're looking at what do I need to do to get ahead of this? This is what I'm working on. These are the things that I'm going to start doing now so that this will happen, so that I will get this type of return. Versus a reactive person, you own a job or you own a business or whatever, but you're making no plans for the future as far as what you want to happen. That's not going to be a very successful business. So I think overall in life, being proactive is definitely the way to go when we look at life in general, regardless of what area or areas people are working on.
I concur, and I think it's also better stress management because I think a lot of stuff that's causing stress is just reacting to everything, catching up, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now, versus truly assessing your life and kind of drilling down to some basic things that are going on in your life. You want to manage your health. You want to get ahead in your relationships and parenting, on your jobs, education, however this is applicable to you. But being able to look at, okay, what are some cycles or some patterns that keep happening in my life because you haven't taken the time to slow down and to say, let me get ahead of this.
Right.
And like I said, it's applicable to any aspect of life. The first thing that comes to my mind is health. We know that 80% of us is water. So how about we stay on top of our hydration?
Which I need to do a better job in that.
And so, but a lot of times it's like, okay, I'm fatigued. I have a headache. I'm kind of feeling off. And so now we're kind of reactive, okay, and whatever that may be, your nerves, like, oh gosh, I'm nervous, what is wrong with me? And it's like, you need to drink some water and go rest. So those are some basics. And in relationships, in marriage, if there's something that's going on that's been bothering you, you keep sweeping it under the rug. And then all of a sudden you blow up,
right?
Or you're imploding in private. It's something that it's just eating away at who you are, and your countenance is now changing, and then the tone in your home is now changing. So it's a combination of being able to again look at your life and say, okay, how can I get ahead of it? And I want to read just one definition that I have of proactive behavior. Proactive behavior involves acting in advance of a future situation rather than reacting. It refers to taking control of a situation and making early changes rather than adjusting to a situation or waiting for something to happen. And so, babe, why do you think people wait for something to happen before they decide to do something?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways, and not to digress, but I think one reason why people wait is fear of the unknown. If I do this, what will happen? But part of living your life is, making decisions, do your research, talk to people, make your decision and move on, and move and go with it. And you can always make pivots and adjustments along the way. So being fearful or not knowing what to do, if you're in that state of a decision-making process, glean from others, talk to people, research. But at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. But I want to talk about real quick, when we go back to just being proactive versus reactive, you brought up two great examples. You talked about, number one, in health, being proactive. Then you brought up relationships. So obviously in health, being proactive versus waiting for the doctor to find something wrong with you or waiting for something to happen that's detrimental to your body. One of the things that we always talk about, diet, exercise, drinking water. You mentioned water. Diet, exercise. I mean, these are important aspects of living a healthy life. So that's having proactive behavior. Monitoring what you eat, how much you eat. That's a big thing because that's huge as far as being proactive. And then the flip side of it is you brought up your health. Right. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into health, not just your diet, exercise, but the supplements. That's huge. Your vitamins. We're at the place now. Well, and it's not even our age. Obviously, even when we were in our 20s and 30s, the bottom line, we always took a multivitamin. But you brought up two good examples. I want to talk about even real quick the financial aspect.
Right.
Being proactive financially. And I know when we got married, prior to us getting married, obviously, like most couples, when you're single, you're managing your finances, your individual finances by yourself. But then we got married, we had to come together and look at our finances together, pay bills, look at what's going to savings, what's going to retirement accounts, what's going towards bills, what's our monthly expenses. That helped reduce stress. You brought up stress financially, even as we approach this holiday season of Christmas, winter break, traveling, New Year's. Think about it. The amount of stress that can be alleviated if people would come together with their loved one, their significant other, or if they're single themselves, and just really take the time to look at where their money is going, to tell their money where it's going, versus the money just disappears and nothing to show for it. And it's not disappearing. It's just it could be that you haven't taken the time to say, what are your priorities? For me, I know, and this is personally, for me, when we sit down and do the budget prior to us doing a lot of spending, it helps alleviate so much stress.
For sure. Because
I realize that the bills that need to be paid are paid. I realize that we talked about the things that we're working on purchasing. If it's a big purchase, we've planned for or preparing for it, so that everything is taken care of. Your savings is taken care of. Investments is taken care of. And now we know, okay, this is what we're going to do with this money that we have left. For me, it brings a whole nother level of peace, because I'm not worried about, just the day-to-day stuff. We've prepared for it. And regardless of how much money you make, okay, truly getting ahead of it, so you don't just spend and spend, and then you wonder why, man, I forgot to pay this, I forgot to do that. And before you know it, you spend a lot of money on wants and then take care of some of your needs. So for me, that truly helps alleviate a lot of stress.
It's a big one, and I concur with you on everything that you said. I think another issue dealing with being proactive and reactive behavior is that we have a lot of reactive systems in the world, with the healthcare. I think even our criminal justice system is a reactive system. And so I think overall, we just are navigating through reactive systems, and we aren't taught. I just don't think it's taught enough. And we just learn to normalize being reactive versus truly getting ahead until, unfortunately, something major happens. Then we're trying to kind of piece things together, and you have to start somewhere. So I'm not saying that, everything is a horrible thing. We all have our wake up moments in life that kind of set us straight and to position us to make better decisions that are going to put us on a healthier trajectory mentally, physically, and spiritually. And so I think it's important to, as this year 2021 is coming to a close, to begin to assess behavior patterns, personal behavior patterns, and even some systems or tones that you've set for your household, and be able, okay, how can we do better? What are things that we can get ahead of so that we can save more money, or we can have a better vacation next year, or launch this business, whatever the case may be, versus always focusing on what isn't working, what isn't right, and being reactive emotionally because you're used to that pattern functioning in your life.
So you mentioned the healthcare system. You talked about it being a reactive type system. Kind of unpack that a little bit. Explain what you mean when you mention that.
Obviously, for anybody that's been listening for any amount of time knows that I live with a chronic health condition, and a large part of my life has been around the healthcare system. And a lot of times, if you're not, you have to be very, very sick before they start offering some type of support. And so that's kind of just the black and white part of what I mean, versus being able to get nutritionists involved, get a health coach involved, different things to get ahead of certain ailments and diseases. But it's one of those things that you show up, and I can give a personal example. 2 years ago, I was in the hospital and had lost a tremendous amount of weight. And I was 2 points off of the blood work to qualify for a PICC line to get nutritional intake that way. And so my health continued to deteriorate, and I was transferred to another hospital before they would care for me. But the fact that 98 pounds in a grown woman was not enough of a crisis to get me what I needed was very scary. And unfortunately, you can look for yourself. The number 3 cause of death in America is medical mistakes. And so this is something that is near and dear to my heart as far as getting ahead of the game, having your team or support in place, especially if you deal with chronic illness, so that you're not living in a reactive state. Because with autoimmune conditions, anything can set you off. And you want to have things in place.
Right. So what I hear, even when you talk about like the healthcare system, and this is not necessarily a reflection of every doctor, every nurse, every hospital.
Right.
However, you're talking about the standard, like the threshold that needs to occur in a patient before they can get medical treatment for whatever the ailment is. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that can be a large gap, meaning you're not, per the doctor, sick enough to warrant this type of medication, but you're feeling miserable in your body, and you as an individual, you need assistance.
Right.
However, the doctor says they can't do anything because you're not sick enough. And so instead of waiting to get sick enough to get medication, our focus, even as health coaches, is to make sure that we put programs in place, lead people to resources that can help them deal with whether it be the physical attributes, the diet of the physical ailments that are going on within a person's body, working with them, helping them get the information and suggesting particular health plans, whether it's diet, exercise, weightlifting programs. Sometimes it's the mental health piece. One of the things that we really work on, in addition to providing that life coaching, as necessary, have a host of therapists and counselors that we work with that can help that as well. So instead of sitting back, waiting, and reacting to every ailment or everything that goes on in life that's compounding your problems that you're dealing with day to day, take a proactive mindset, proactive attitude, and say, okay, these are the things that are within my control. I may not be able to control when the doctor can prescribe a specific type of medication for my ailment, but I can control how much time I'm outside exercising. I can control, to some extent, the type of food that I eat. Now, well, to a large extent, you can control the type of food you eat, in spite of budget. Listen. There are ways, and so part of it is we recommend people contact us. We can help you. We can refer you to people. We can give you information that you need. Whatever it is, talk to people that if you need help. That's being proactive versus complaining about a situation in need of help, not knowing what you need, but sitting back and just continuing to take blow after blow after blow. You deserve better.
That's real. And the beginning of this is being introspective. What does that mean? It's looking inside. It starts with you.
That's good.
You can look and complain about the condition of your home, the behavior of your kids, the state of your marriage, and point the finger at everybody else, which is basically scapegoating, and not take responsibility for your own behavior patterns, your own type of thinking. It starts with being introspective. Take a look inside, be honest with yourself, and identify and look at what are you thinking about, and what are the actions that you're taking regarding your inner thoughts. Why are you leaning into these thoughts? Why do you keep behaving this way? And then refusing to make excuses. Well, this is how my parents did it. Well, I learned it this way. And it's important to identify the root system, but at the end of the day, now it's time to uproot stuff that's not helping you to produce good fruit in your life. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it's a layered topic, and we could go on, but again, it starts with us as individuals, looking inside, having that honest conversation with ourselves, and then starting little by little, because you may identify, dang, man, I got a lot to work on. Great, you've identified that. Now let's start with one. So that you don't become overwhelmed, and then you're frustrated because you're trying to tackle too many tasks. You know your capacity. Right.
Well, that's a good point. Identifying particular tasks, not getting yourself overwhelmed with this huge checklist that's impossible to accomplish. But also, I think even like the little things, and I'm talking about like the day-to-day things. One of the ways that you can alleviate stress by being proactive versus reactive. We talk about planning. It's okay. I know I'm working this week. I've prepared my clothes that I'm aware. I've did my meal prep. This is the food that I have. I've did my meal prep, so my lunch and so forth is packed. It comes down to some of the simple things that we discuss and that we implement in our life. That even when we help coach other people, we share these strategies, because sometimes the little things are minimized to the point where people don't realize this is an actual aid. Some of the things that we do, before the weekend is over, we make sure that grocery shopping has occurred. We have full tanks of gas in our vehicles. Obviously, we've looked at our bills. We've already done that financial piece. We've looked at who has to go for gymnastics, who has practice, who's going to take them. I mean, we've discussed these little things so that when we get into the week, we're not running crazy. It's like a routine. You're taking care of this, I'm taking care of that, and we're taking care of this together, and the kids are doing this. That alleviates stress. Listen, with COVID and so much still going on, and every time you look around, and it's real. I'm not minimizing it. COVID is real, so please don't think you can bury your head in the sand and say, I choose not to participate. Some of them like foolish things that people say. We're all participating in the effects of COVID, okay? The world. And this latest variant, Omicron, it's real, okay? So there's a lot of things that we cannot control. The last thing we need to add on our plate is a stressful environment that makes things worse.
Right.
So because people are walking around frantic and stressed out, allow us to help you. If you need coaching services, if you need counselors, we can direct you to people, but allow us to help you by sharing some valuable information so you can make some tweaks in your own life to reduce the stress that's going on. Because there's so much stress in the world, the last thing you need to do is be unorganized in your own life, thereby increasing the stress in your life. You deserve better. And we talk about it all the time, babe. Yeah. Loving your life enough to make the necessary changes. Well, being proactive versus reactive is loving yourself enough, thereby organizing your life, thereby reducing your stress and that gives you an increase of health outcomes, better health outcomes. So it's a passion for us because we've lived it. We've learned along the way. We've had to make our own adjustments. And it's a never-ending process. But I can tell you we've gleaned tremendously from our adjustments and the things that we've done. And we want to share that information with you all.
And, I just want to put a pin here. Also, being able to go back and apologize to the people that you may have just unleashed on, whether it was your kids, your spouse, because you didn't have certain things in place to get ahead. And I'm talking to leaders, mothers, fathers. If you're managing people, but you have not put things in place to manage your own life, and then you're mad because everybody else's chaos is interfering with yours, and we tend to damage relationships and say stuff because we're not getting ahead of things.
So you said be willing to apologize if you've demonstrated reactive behavior that was just.
Because you weren't proactive. You weren't getting ahead of stuff. You saw something that was a problem and you swept it under the rug or made excuses for it. And now it's caused damage in your relationships, whatever that may be, between husband and wife, between father and daughter or son, your child, as a parent, whatever the case may be. But being able to first do the introspective work, acknowledge it, and then put the steps in place to repair. And then, implement, okay, this is what we're going to do to be proactive, to get ahead in our relationship, our finances, my health. Make it applicable where it's needed. Cool.
Well, listen, hey, this has been real. We hope, as we talk about loving your life, we hope that you all, glean from this. Be proactive versus reactive. You deserve better. You deserve a quality of life. A great quality of life, and these simple things that we've discussed today are huge in making the necessary adjustments to enjoy life to the fullest.
So thank you all again for tuning in to another discussion about loving your life. You can check us out on all of your podcast outlets. Thank you again. We love you.
Peace.
Shout to the city that raised me. Shout to the people that made me. I'm from the 80s. I don't think mumbling wavy. I grew up black on a Jay-Z. Maybe I'm crazy. I ain't been wondering lately. Feel like it's there for the taking. Feel like I'm good with the changes. Know who I am, and that's the most dangerous stage.